Okay, welcome to the chapter on the Japanese warrior class. This is where we start to really look at what is going on in Japan and who is really ruling it. We also can see, or we will be seeing, a big similarity between European feudalism and Japanese feudalism. They're just using different names, but a lot of the ideas are still there. The idea of a feudal lord, the daimyo, or of the knight, the samurai. You're still going to have peasants. You're still going to have merchants. You're still going to have that emperor at top. But really, when we look at Japan, we're going to see like who really is controlling everything. So when we talk about feudal Japan, we're talking about 700 year time span where the samurais are the ruling class. You'll see this shift away by around the 1700s. It will go actually into the 1800s a little bit. You'll still see that samurai culture there. And even in World War II, you'll see this act of Bushido, the code of the warrior, with Japanese kamikaze pilots and this idea of dying with honor and fighting to the end. That's still very much ingrained. And it all stems from this idea of this warrior class, the pride, the samurai, the pride of the samurai. Okay, so who runs the world? And you can see my cute little quote, besides girls, obviously. Shout out to Beyonce. The emperor is going to be your figurehead. Now, remember, the emperor is going to be, he really doesn't actually have that much power, but the people like him because it goes back to the fact that the emperor, the empress, is this descendant of the sun god and the moon god. So they are still going to be considered to be this kind of mythical being here on Earth. In reality, it's going to go down to the shoguns. These are the people that are going to actually control Japan. And they're going to be the ones who essentially allow the emperor to continue to have his cushy palace and his home and his food and things like that. So you have two families. You have more, but the two main families in 1185 are going to be the Taira family and the Minamoto family. They are both going to be fighting for control. They're going to do that for about 7-8 years. Eventually, the Minamoto Yoritomo, he is going to win, and he's going to claim that he is going to be the ruler, and he's going to be given the title of the shogun. The shogun is really kind of your commander in chief, and I actually like this little social hierarchy pyramid. You have the emperor on top. You can see he's really a figurehead. All right, the shogun's the one who's really going to control things. He's going to be kind of like your king of the land. Then you're going to have your daimyo. They're going to be your samurai warriors, but I compare them to the lords of European feudalism. So they're going to be fighters and warriors on their own, but they're going to be the ones who have samurai underneath them. So you have the emperor, figurehead, not much of a really big player. Then you have the shogun. He's going to control everybody else. The daimyo are going to be responsible or going to be giving warriors and food and things like that to the shogun. In return, the shogun is going to give land to the daimyo. In return, the daimyo are going to give land or money or whatever to the samurai. And then under the samurai, the peasants are going to work. The peasants are going to pay very high tax just to be able to work on that land. Obviously, most of the tax is probably going to be paid in rice or other food products. And then you have the merchants, which people really don't like. Kind of like in medieval Europe, they're kind of seen as these people who are like kind of greedy and making money off of everybody else, but they're also the ones who are willing to risk their lives traveling and selling these goods. So, it's kind of our opinion now versus what life was like for them in the back and 1,000 or so years ago. So once again, the peasants working for the samurai respond to the daimyo respond to the shogun, and everybody just says, cool, look at the emperor. He looks pretty nice in his robes. Here's just another example, our more simplified example of the social hierarchy. Money and power go up further, and you can see on this time I didn't even put the emperor on this pyramid. It's just shogun, daimyo, samurai. The samurai are going to be the ones who are following this code of conduct called Bushido. But before we get into that, we're just going to look at the Kamakura shogunate. You can see this is a picture, obviously, so this is going to be probably closer to the 1800s. This is a picture of a typical samurai outfit. A lot of times the helmets and things are made to look very scary. Sometimes they would be wearing face masks. I don't know if you can kind of see, but the guys will also sometimes be wearing like a leather shin guard. Sometimes they'll wear those on their thighs as well. They'll have loose-fitting pants underneath all of that armor. But the other thing with that armor, as compared to, say, European knights, is their armor is much more movable. It's more flexible. So the Kamakura shogunate is going to base on their land for loyalty. So once again, this is the idea of the samurais pledge a loyalty to the daimyo, and they in turn get land for their people and families to work on, and the peasants work for all of them. In exchange, the peasants give a lot of food and taxes, and they get protection in return. So it's exactly like European feudalism. Like it says, the samurai are the only purpose in life is to fight for their lord when needed. So they are going to be training in these arts. They have to be very disciplined. Many of them are going to practice Buddhism. So Bushido is the code of the warrior. Once again, this is just another wonderful photograph of a samurai warrior in his complete outfit. Bushido, it just stresses a lot of different things. Once again, is loyalty above all. If you cannot honor your daimyo, if you cannot honor the shogunate, if you do not show courage, you have failed at being a true samurai. Failure to meet these goals would result in seppuku. Seppuku is actually ritual suicide, and this is where you have people will, let's say the samurai have lost in battle, and they will then disembowel themselves. They actually carry a specific knife for that, to disembowel themselves. Or at times they'll ask, I'll show you a clip here. It's a Hollywood clip of The Last Samurai starring Tom Cruise. And yes, of course, it's Hollywood, and yes, they're exploiting things and taking things out of context, but it's also just a really good film to show you some of the style of fighting and things like that. People who did not, the warriors, the samurai who decided not to practice ritual suicide after a defeat, were considered ronin. And ronin are kind of like these rogue samurais. Once they have failed at their duty, they are no longer pledging loyalty to any daimyo, to any shogun. So they are kind of these roving bandits of samurais. Kind of like, think about the knights we talked about with Pope Urban II, where they didn't have anything to do. So these ronin can cause a lot of problems inside medieval Japan, because they pledge loyalty to no one. There is no control over them after this point. Once they've decided to continue living, they can become soldiers for hire or mercenaries. This is a video clip that I will show you. I'm going to skip it over now because it's actually going to be better if I embed it into the Google Classroom. And I'm just going to put in a few different clips into the Google Classroom for you to watch. It's just more for pleasure, but you should watch them. I'm not going to ask questions about it. I'm not going to waste your time for doing that, but it's just kind of to give you a little bit more of a visual. This is going back to the ronin. The ronin are samurais without masters. They do not practice loyalty to anyone. They do not commit suicide. And they don't really fit in the social pyramid. Are they everywhere in feudal Japan and medieval Japan? No, they're not like in every city, in every village. But there are groups of people who are kind of these other type of warriors. Like I said, the problems with the ronin, they're going to be just like the knights that are uncontrollable in medieval Europe. That's why I'm saying it's actually really cool to do these chapters back to back, because you can see how much they compare to each other, how similar they are. And yes, there are differences, styles of fighting, the fact that knights don't go around killing themselves if they fail in battle. They just try to keep working and stay alive. So anyways, the ronin are going to be hard to control. Because of that, they can attack the military government. They can cause problems for shogun. They can influence the peasants. Peasants may turn their loyalty to a ronin who might be asking for less taxes, and in return they'll give over crops and land in that if they think the ronin is more powerful than that samurai who owns their land, or the daimyo that owns their land. This is another one that I'll show you. It's just a clip about some of the training with the kendo and everything like that. And, once again, of course, Tom Cruise is in this. So, of course, he's going to end up being an amazingly trained warrior in just a matter of minutes.